So just looking at, I mean, that was the background in terms of some of the theory around nature and health. And we'll just have a look now in terms of the nature-based wellbeing plan that Nador has developed. So we base this nature-based wellbeing plan on the RAP plan by Mary Ellen Copeland. So that's RAP, for those who work in mental health, might be very familiar with it. It's Wellness Recovery Action Planning. So that really focuses on people's mental health recovery. So our nature-based wellbeing plan is really a preventative approach, and it focuses on enhancing people's self-awareness in terms of what helps keep them well. It's all about empowering people in terms of their health and well-being, getting them to understand their bodies, understand how being in different environments affect their health and well-being and their thinking patterns and processes. And all about how we can kind of integrate nature and microdoses of nature into our day-to-day life. It's not about waiting to the weekend and spending, you know, the whole day in nature. It's about, you know, having 20 or 30 minutes of nature contact a day, almost like your 5-a-day fruit and veg, how we can integrate nature into daily life, and also how we can promote our own self-care in terms of the work we might do with others, because we have to resource ourselves so we can support others. So in terms of the nature-based wellbeing plan, it's also underpinned by the 5 pathways to nature connection that was developed by Ryan Lumber, a psychologist based in the University of Derby. And he looked at the 5 different pathways that we can connect with nature. So basically, you know, we don't fully connect with nature through facts and figures and you know, scientific, you know, research. People don't really connect fully to nature. You know, they connect to their senses, to their bodies, you know, what they can feel and touch and sense in nature. They connect through emotion. You know, what does nature mean to them? You know, what are some of their favorite memories from nature? You know, when do they feel good in nature? They connect to compassion, you know, compassion for themselves, self-compassion, but also compassion for the natural world. How can you support your local park? How can you protect, you know, your local urban street trees? You know, how can you advocate for the rights of nature, for the rights of animals? And also meaning, you know, that we connect to nature through what nature means to us, through metaphor and symbolism, and beauty, you know, not the traditional sense of beauty, but, you know, where we see beauty in nature. And I think we need to see more and more beauty now. The more suffering there is in the world, the more we need to bring beauty into our life in terms of colors and patterns and, you know, different environments, and how we can really bring that in. So in terms of beauty, you know, again, as I said, not the traditional sense of beauty, but this beautiful Japanese concept of wabi-sabi. You know, it's the kind of desolate beauty of aged or imperfection. You know, we're obsessed with perfection in the modern world, and, you know, we look for the perfection, and the imperfection, I think, is so important. You know, are we to look at cherry blossoms only in full bloom? So again, you know, what we focus on in everyday life in terms of nature, you know, the little things in our garden, the little miracles we see every day. Maybe, you know, the spider's web with the dewdrops, you know, maybe the light coming through some of your trees, maybe the warmth of the sun on your face. These are all little chances of connecting with nature, the smells in your garden. Also meaning, I mentioned the metaphor and symbolism of nature, but also where we see resilience in nature and where we see a resilience in ourselves. There can be so much work done in terms of, you know, how people see resilience in nature and how they can relate it to their own life, you know, in terms of the little plant growing through the cracks, you know, in terms of, you know, 2 trees in a forest supporting each other, you know, in terms of the fungi in the forest, how it's all interconnected, and where, you know, if we are not, you know, connected to our community, how that might impact our health and well-being. So compassion, again, concept, a Japanese concept of mono where, you know, the ephemeral nature of beauty, you know, so an awareness of the fleeting impermanence of life. So I think, you know, if we understand that life is fleeting, that moments are fleeting, that we can't keep things the same, that life moves on, that really helps, you know, with compassion towards ourselves, but also compassion in nature, that we're not wishing for things to be different. You know, we're not trying to stop the aging process. We're not trying to keep everything the same, because nature is constantly changing. It's moving with the cycles, with the seasons. You know, there's the depths of winter, there's the brightness of spring, and also in our lives, you know, we have the same cycles. So also, you know, in terms of health and well-being, you know, being able to see with new eyes. So there's a great Irish philosopher, John Moriarty, and he talked about like silver branch perception, you know, about the profound experiences of the ordinary being revealed as extraordinary. So where can we see that absolute beauty in everyday life, like I mentioned, so important for our well-being. So in terms of our work on the nature-based wellbeing plan, as I said, we use those 5 pathways of nature connection to see how we can bring nature into people's lives for health and wellbeing. You know, and we look at different questions with people. So, you know, when they think of personal flourishing, what images or feelings or colors or words come to mind? So, you know, their understanding of when they're really well, what does that look like? And also looking at signs of stress, how it impacts their thoughts, their emotions, behaviors. So again, getting a better understanding of themselves, of how they think, of how their thinking impacts their behavior, how their behavior impacts their emotions. So it's all connected. You know, so what we look at is, you know, what am I like when I'm at my best in terms of my optimal health and well-being? And it could be when you're spending time in nature. It could be when you don't have a lot of work pressures. It could be when the family situation is going well. You know, what does it look like when I'm getting stressed? So you start to identify the changes. You know, it could be that your eating patterns change. Could be, you know, that your sleep is starting to be impacted. It could be that you are less likely to engage in physical activity. And then what are your nature-based wellbeing tools? So the nature-based wellbeing tools are anything from nature that you might use to help support your health and wellbeing and help keep you well. And how do you integrate them into your daily routine? So again, if you think about like the 5 fruit and veg a day, you know, your physical activity levels, how do you bring 20 or 30 minutes of nature contact, you know, into your day? And then maintenance, of course, you know, how do you, you know, create the habits, but also maintain the habits? So some ideas in terms of nature-based wellbeing tools are maybe noticing 3 things in nature. Again, the University of Derby Nature Connectedness Research Unit has written quite a lot on that. You know, so you're focusing on the positives, you're focusing on gratitude, you're focusing on, you know, positive things as opposed to looking at everything that's gone wrong in life. Engaging with the 5 senses, you know, when in nature. You know, have a local sit spot. You know, where do you go and sit and simply observe? You don't have to do anything else. You can just observe and be, and you have nothing to achieve. You know, also green exercise, you know, physical activity in nature, maybe jogging in nature, watching nature videos. So when you can't get outside, how do you bring nature in? You know, David Attenborough, I think, is responsible for keeping a lot of people sane and well, you know, throughout the world, you know, with his work on the nature work that he's doing. Also nature meditations, you know, so it could be a meditation by the beach, could be a meditation in the forest, in a meadow, but again, bringing them into your day-to-day life or your work as well when you can't get out. And, you know, wander and wander. So simply go for a walk without any, you don't have to achieve, you know, your 10,000 steps. You don't have to achieve any outcomes. Just simply be open and curious to what arises. And also arts in nature, you know, people get great, you know, satisfaction and enjoyment from nature photography, from poetry, you know, expressive writing in nature, mindful movement. So many different ways you can bring nature, you know, into your life and into your work to help support you. So creating your nature and wellbeing sanctuary. So again, you know, in terms of your work or your home life, and sometimes now they're merged, you know, with hybrid working or working from home, but bringing in different plants, you know, into your natural environment, into your home environment. bringing in natural light, very important in terms of, your vitamin D, in terms of your mood, and also for people that experience SAD, seasonal affective disorder, natural light, especially in the mornings, are so important. Bringing the outdoors in without damaging nature in any way. So it's all about respecting the natural environment. The soundscape, so do you have maybe some audios of bird song, of crashing waves, of wind? How can you bring that into your home or your work? Nature imagery as well, surrounding yourself with beautiful images of nature, beautiful photos, can really lift your spirits when you need it. And solitude and silence, creating those times in your daily life, in your working day, for that solitude, for that silence, for that reflection, that will lead to, enhanced creativity and deeper thought processes. So yes, so that all fits in with the concept of biophilic design, which is basically bringing natural elements into indoor spaces. And there's a real push and interest for this now because we are so disconnected with the natural environment. So if you are interested in biophilic design, there's a great Turpin have produced this Patterns of Biophilic Design booklet, looking at the different elements and how you can bring them into your home and work life. So in terms of different nature-based resources, again, you can look at virtual nature, you can look at different soundscape meditations, you can look at different nature-based apps, you can look at various nature readings. So there's many different resources, you can build for your nature-based wellbeing tools and your toolkit. So hopefully you enjoyed that webinar today. We just looked at how nature can support our health and well-being, and then we looked at developing the Nador nature-based well-being plan. And then we looked at how we could bring nature, into our home and work environments. So if you want to find out more about the work we do at Nador, you can go to nadorforesttherapy.com, or you can email us at info@nadorforesttherapy.com. We run regular trainings for forest bathing guides, for integrated forest therapy practitioners, and we train them in using the nature-based well-being plan, and we train them in using and working with nature to support people's health and well-being. So thank you everybody for attending, and hope you enjoyed the session today.